Everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to a twofer. This is an art journal tutorial with a build your stash technique video first. So what we're going to do in our build your stash session is do modeling paste onto tissue paper. And I'm going to talk about why you would want to do this and the benefits. So basically, I'm taking the regular modeling paste as well as some varieties and applying it through the stencil onto plain dollar store tissue paper. I'm just applying it with a key card and just like you would normally do it. I've got a flat surface underneath here. Now, once this is done, I'm going to set this to dry on its own. One of the advantages to doing this, no more modeling paste mishaps. You know that it's happened to you. It's happened to me. You go and put the lavender on as a focal point at the end and it seeps under and it makes a mess and it wrecks your background. This will avoid that. Now, wherever there's tissue paper, whatever background you have is going to show through because the tissue paper parts will become translucent. When you do a build your stash like this, you have one cleanup. I have a bucket of water there, a pan of water, and once I do the modeling paste on the stencils, I'm just throwing it into the bucket. I'm cleaning my stencils once from all the modeling paste I do in this build your stash session, and it's going to save me cleanup time, which means less cleanup, which means more creating time. So as I said, now that this is done, I'm just going to take this and set it aside. I just thought it was best not to use the heat tool. So I'm using modeling paste here, and I'm using the Crafters Workshop modeling paste. This is just the white, but you can use any of their paste. And here I'm using a palette knife. Now I love this Magnolia stencil. I have it in 6-inch and I have it in the 12-inch. But every time I've used it, I've wanted to manipulate it and change the composition. And doing it on the tissue paper allows you to rip it apart and use the elements that are stenciled with the modeling paste however you want on whatever page or art piece that you're doing. Now, I used to always stencil them out, cut them out, get the composition, and then you'd put the modeling paste and then move it and try to dry it and wait. It also allows you to apply modeling paste onto a background that may be very textured or a round one, like the buckets that you've seen me doing. This way, I can have textured stenciling that's textured on those buckets, and I'm sure you're going to see me doing that. You can use leftover modeling paste. Have some tissue paper at the side, and whenever you have leftover modeling paste, grab the tissue paper, push it through the stencil, and save that for the next session. It can go in a folder and you can keep it. Here I've taken the TCW clear modeling paste and I've colorized it. Now I was doing that for a project, and of course I mixed up too much. Now, I discovered that you can put that in a container and it does last for a long time, over 2 months. But if you don't want to save it and keep track of that, grab some stencils, put it onto tissue paper, and then you have it. I'm just keeping a list of ideas of which stencils I want to use the modeling this technique with. And when I do a session, I will go and pull out those stencils and have them ready for when I'm using them on the pages. Now, it doesn't have to be used just for focal images. It could be design elements like this one. Now, do you see the one in the middle on the left-hand side? The modeling paste went underneath. I can just rip that off and I don't have to use it. I haven't wrecked my page. Here I'm using this Nature Circuitry, putting some more of that blue modeling paste because I mixed way too much. I'm anxious to see how this works with the colored modeling paste. Remember, whatever's in the background is going to show through. So you need to practice a little bit. So you can do this with black modeling paste, gold, silver, or any color that you mix. But you will have to experiment a little bit to see what effect you get. So if I was using this black modeling paste, this tissue paper, and my background was orange, the orange would show through wherever the tissue paper still was, and the black would be texturized. So I hope you give this a try. Right away, we are going to go back and do an art journal page with the lavender that I did with the white modeling paste. Here's the inspiration for that page. The first lavender bloom in my garden. I love lavender, and so I was thrilled when Carmen Medlin with the Crafters Workshop has this lavender stencil. I'm using Prism Violet and turquoise, but you can use any purple and any teal or blue, and you're going to get a similar effect. So I'm putting this on the page with my fingers and a makeup sponge, and I'm mixing it right on the page with the turquoise, the prism violet, and the gesso. There's a little bit of text there, and I'm covering that up with the gesso, but I otherwise have not pre-gessoed this page. This page comes from an old recipe binder that I've repurposed as an art journal. Now you can see just how non-precise I am mixing these colors. But this is just the base coat of color. I know I'm going to add some stenciling, maybe some stamping. I know I'm going to do some decoupaging of the lavender on top of it. So you're not going to see all of this. And all those, fingerprints and hard edges are going to fade. So I've grabbed the stencil, Tile Mania, and this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil. And this stencil and all the others that you saw me put modeling paste through can be purchased at one of my affiliate links, either through my Amazon store, through TCW, Shopify store, or at Ninny's Napkins. She has a whole selection of 6-inch stencils, and Nicole will bring in some other ones if you let her know you're interested. So after doing it with the prism violet, I'm putting some silver on here through the same stencil. And you've seen me doing that. Less is often more. One stencil, two colors. And you just get that variation, and you're building interest in there. So now this is totally dry. I let them air dry. I did not take a heat tool to them. I would be cautious about using a heat tool with the tissue paper, just in case it might get too overheated. Using the Stampendous dot stamp, adding a little more interest, and some script stamp. And right now you can see the background has just transformed. All those things that was kind of a hot mess before, not so bad anymore. So here I am going to take this lavender and I am going to use whatever pieces of it I want. I can take it, I can cut them apart, I can mix and match to fit whatever size page I want. So right off the bat, I started using scissors. I did go back and I was just ripping it with my fingers, and that worked really well. And I like a ripped edge. I find it melds a little better with the background as opposed to a cut edge. But you do whatever works for you. But the tissue paper, dollar store tissue paper, stood up quite well. It didn't wrinkle too much. Here I'm trying with, water cutting it with a liner brush. But again, I discovered that ripping it with my fingers worked very well. But do what works easiest for you. Now I'm removing some of this tissue paper as much as possible because my background isn't exactly light. And I know when you do put tissue paper down and decoupage it down or napkins, the darker the background is, the more likely that you're going to see it's going to get a little cloudy and you're going to be able to tell that that was there. So I'm getting as much of it off as I can. So a combination of ripping it, water cutting it, and here's the joy. Can you imagine using this on like a bucket now? I could totally decoupage it on there, and there would be no chance that I would be able to neatly put modeling paste through a stencil on a bucket or a very highly textured place. So I grabbed my sentiments and check out the composition. I took a picture of it so I remember. Now I'm using matte liquid medium, and I'm using a lot of it underneath and on top, and it goes fairly translucent. Now I cut a lot of it off, but even the parts that I didn't, you couldn't tell that they were there. So here I can keep these together. There, I want to turn it a little bit. I just rip it apart and I can adjust it to fit exactly where I want it. I can layer them one on top of another, texture on top of texture, and it works really, really well. As well as I don't have to stop in the middle of this art journal page and dry. Because before, if I was putting a couple fronds of it, the lavender here, and I wanted to overlap it and go, then I'd have to wait for it to dry and then come back. By having it on tissue paper, I can avoid all of that. Stay tuned. This Where Flowers Bloom, Angels Sing is part of a new sentiment pack that I'm working on. It's spring and flowers are singing to me. So cutting off the excess, and you can see how the background, the prism violet and turquoise, shine through. Now, if there are parts that don't go as translucent as you like, just take a little bit of the color on a brush and just touch it up and smooth it over, and it's disappeared. I really didn't have to do that here, but I wanted to show you what you could do if your tissue paper doesn't go as translucent as mine. So I'm edging with black because there's black in the sentiment and there's black in some of the stamping I did with the script stamp and the dot stamp. Just part of my finishing process. And now I'm splattering with black for the same reason. Just add one more layer. There's lots of layers. So we did stenciling, stamping, decoupaging, collaging, splattering. We've done it all. There seemed to be a space here, so I found this black and white butterfly that is sitting on my desk, adding it to the page. Just added that little bit of black. It all works together, and giving that a dry. I believe I came back with my Secura glaze pen and outlined. Oh, there we go. It is part of the video. I outlined the sentiment as well as I did a faux stitching all the way around. And I love, love, love the Secura glaze pen. It's so bold, it's dimensional, and it's shiny. And it's so easy to use. I'll put a link to it, the stencils, the stamps, everything that I've used in the description box below. So if you're looking for them, want to see what they look like, and source them out in your own place, that's why that's there. Information is there for you. So I did that whole sheet of lavender, the whole 12 by 12 lavender, used some of it on here, and here are the leftovers. And you can see how I can just take this and manipulate it and create whatever I want. And this is going into my stash and it will be there. You will see me using it, I am sure, at some future date. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment. Come and share if you try this technique. Share the video with your friends and go to Amazon or Instagram and follow me at Creative Katie. Here's some close-ups. Bye.